This is latest edition of Facebook Live with the Superintendent, David Thomson of Norwood. Don't know if anyone is on, so hoping that I will see a few comments in the comment box to let me know that we're live. Not seeing any. Anybody there? Oh, there we go. All right, Alyssa, thank you. Teresa, thank you. Thank you, Teresa. All right, appreciate it. I want to make sure I'm live before we start. So real quick, this is Facebook Live. I do not have a moderator. Maybe that's something I should look at. Hopefully I'll have some of the administrative team join me as well. But because of that, I am trying to answer questions, look at the camera, process answers and what have you. So I will apologize now for any ums. And I will remind everyone that this COVID-19 situation is an ongoing, not fun crisis, and we are adapting as we go. You will have heard me use the phrase that we are flying the plane and building it at the same time. And to kind of give you a little bit of perspective, we've spent the last 150 years perfecting in-person instruction, which was the preferred method. And about 7 months ago, that was tipped on edge. And we have worked very hard to change our delivery. So I do have about 10 or 12 questions, and then I will look at the chat box and go through those. So if you have a question, please hold off, because I don't want to lose it in the scroll, if you will. So the first one is just a thank you for creating a system in which teachers aren't forced to teach in-person students and remote students simultaneously. This person says the two children are both enjoying school immensely this fall, and they're confident because they have teachers who aren't asked overdo. The next one is my kids' RLA classes have almost 30 kids in them. How large are the remote hybrid classes, and what is being done to ensure equity given the varying class size? What happens if a lot of families choose RLA at the term end, now that cases are increasing in Massachusetts? So when we look at the the hybrid remote, those are basically two halves of a classroom, and for most of our classrooms, that can be a max of 30. Most of them are about between 23 and 28 in some cases. We do have one class that is 30, unfortunately. People have asked why that has happened. When we did our initial survey about who was interested in the Remote Learning Academy, we got numbers. Our average size at that point was about 23. When we asked people to sign up, there were more people who signed up than initially said they were interested. And then we had people move in. And that's especially the case in fourth grade right now, in second grade right now. In the Remote Learning Academy, those sizes are a little bit bigger. So as we look at transitioning, if people decide to go into the district model, which is currently hybrid, would hopefully be hybrid for the majority of the year. And we may have to readjust the placement of some people if we see a large swing in that case. We don't know that right now. The secondary who works on quarters, tomorrow we will open the enrollment window, if you will. We'll go for about a month. All of that is going to be posted on the webpage by tomorrow afternoon. There's a form you would need to pass in to your principal, to your home school principal, to let them know you would like to make a change. And we need to realize that there are limited resources out there, and that making changes, hopefully we'll be able to accommodate all of them. We will process them, and I don't want to say first come, first serve, but hopefully we're going to have a somewhat equal switch back and forth. And not have loading on one side or the other. If that happens, if we get over 30, then we're probably going to have to reassign people, but you can imagine that would be disruptive for the kids in the other model. So we will be looking at that. Will it be a survey survey to Remote Learning Academy parents to gain understanding of successes and pain points that parents are observing. So the first thing is, yes, we will probably do that after the change, if you will, mainly looking at for why people decided to make the change, to understand that. But if you are having a pain point, I would encourage you to immediately reach out to your child's teacher and to the homeschool principal, elementary principal, if that's the case, or the middle school principal, if it's remote at the middle school, or the high school administration, if it's at the high school, and let's try to solve that now. We are dealing with different learning styles. We're kind of forced into a box of only be able to not having as many options as we would like. But I would urge you not to, if there is a pain point, I would urge you to please, please, please not wait until there's some sort of survey to share that. This person would like to know if we are still considering for students that go Monday, Tuesday, when there's a holiday on a Monday, if the children will go to school on Wednesday. I know the neighboring towns are going to school on Wednesday, and I'm not sure we're not. Well, when we looked at our calendar, and we looked at the Monday holidays for the year, and we looked at the Thursday, Friday holidays, because both Thanksgiving and the December holiday period start on a Thursday this year. So between looking at all of those and other holidays like Veterans Day and things like that have come in, we found that those numbers are equal. So we're not going to change the days, because if we change it for Monday, Tuesday, then the Monday, Tuesday are going to have more days than the Thursday, Friday. So we did go through that. We did change our half days. I think almost all of them. There's one December 8th that we're not able to change, but we've changed them all to Wednesdays. And the reason for doing that was to make sure that we weren't asking parents to try to, do a backflip and cover for a child on another half day if we already have Wednesdays as half days for our half days of instruction for our students, let's say. So please keep that in mind. So the number of days when you look at the entire calendar is the same for the Monday holidays, Veterans Day, Election Day. All of those things are the same. So no, we're not going to be changing those. If Norwood goes into the red on the Massachusetts COVID map, does that automatically mean school will go all remote, or are other criteria considered as well? It does not automatically mean that we would go all remote. It is an indicator that we should be concerned, but the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed is asking us to make a determination after 3 weeks of being red. Now, being red is an absolute number for those in the town of Norwood. It's not, you need to dig a little deeper as to where those cases are. Obviously, if we were red because there was a nursing home that had an outbreak, that might not be as concerning. For the schools, it's still concerning, don't get me wrong. But as if there was an outbreak, at the school or with a certain population of children, we might move on that faster. So the general rule is we're supposed to look at 3 weeks of redness, if you will. That will be a conversation between the Board of Health and the school committee, myself and our lead at the Department of Health, Segal Reese, about whether we should go remote or not remote. And I will say that what we need to impress on everybody is that we need to wear the masks and keep social distancing. If you're wearing the masks, and keeping 6 feet or more, the chance of contracting COVID is greatly reduced. And you've heard it said several times. You've heard Dr. Fauci said, if we just wore the mask, if we would just wear the mask and keep our social distance. So when we go around, we see things like kids riding in cars without the mask on. If they're not in your immediate family, in your home, you should be keeping a distance and wearing a mask. And we need everybody's help with that. And please share that with your children and, maybe other people in your household as well. Would you consider no homework on weekends policy while we're hybrid or remote? All for homework in general, but I feel that over the weekend, right now is not much. My parents' child was in middle school. Everything's so off this year. We really need the weekend to decompress. So I know that the elementary has already determined that for term one, and they're on trimesters, if you will. But for the first marking period, they are not doing weekend homework. The middle school is asking about that, and it's, and for everybody who is, this is the fun part. Everyone that says we shouldn't have homework, there are people who are upset if their kids don't have homework, because that's one of the measures that parents use for for um, determining the rigor or how hard kids are working, and it needs to be quality homework, not busy homework. There also is a concern about making sure we're catching up and moving kids forward. So it is a fine balance, but I know at the elementary level that they have already done that in first grade, and I know that Dr. Frazek was going to start that conversation at the middle school. Why are RLA classes so large? I think I answered that, like plus 30. To be clear, there are no RLA classes over 30. And why were we lied to about RLA teachers being our Norwood teachers? Why were we not told if we decide to send our children back to the schools, there's no room and they will have to go to another school? Why were we not told this? Okay, so I'm not sure what your definition of a Norwood teacher is, but you were not lied to. I'll have to take a little bit of a breath because I'm kind of offended by that. But maybe this person's going through something and I should be kind and deal with it that way. But there are no classes in the RLA over 30. We do have one class of 30. The Remote Learning Academy teachers are a combination of veteran Norwood teachers and new Norwood teachers. So to be clear on this, the people who are teaching in our schools are employed by the Norwood Public Schools. They have been interviewed by the Norwood Public Schools. They are working for the year in the Norwood Public Schools. They are supervised by Norwood Public Schools principals. They are using Norwood Public Schools curriculum, and they are working with our Norwood Public Schools coaches, curriculum coaches, technology people, and what have you. They are Norwood Public School teachers. There are a couple grades where we did not have veteran teachers who were going remote, and they are mostly newer teachers. However, I will also say that, especially in a couple of those, they're pretty ingenious and pretty fantastic people. We've done a very good job. So I want to digress a little bit on this. So when we started this process last spring, we wanted to up our game with our instruction. We wanted to make sure our teachers had a curriculum that was adaptable to a whole new medium of instruction, and we wanted to mimic a regular school day. So when we were informed that we had to offer a remote-only option, as an option for parents, not a need, an option, okay, we had a choice of either outsourcing that and hiring a company with a curriculum. And I don't know if any of you read the Globe this past weekend about what other districts are doing. But you have 6, 7, 8-year-olds doing independent study because those towns were either forced or opted for that option. Okay, so what they have is they have a morning meeting, they have instructional videos that they can watch, and they have work that they can do. They are not meeting with live teachers on a daily basis. Why were we able to do that? Smart budgeting and preparing last spring, a tremendous amount of support from this town and the town manager, the selectmen, and the finance committee. Other towns are not doing what the Norwood Public Schools are doing in the Remote Learning Academy. They're not. We have live teachers meeting with kids every day, trying to mimic what is happening in our schools. So as far as moving back and forth, like I mentioned earlier, when we did the original survey, I pleaded with everyone to give us accurate numbers. And again, it was over the summer. It was a short time frame. I get that. We were surprised by some of the numbers that came back, and we were a little bit surprised by some people with needs going into the remote academy. And there are medical reasons for that. I'm not displaying that. And then we had people move in who were choosing the remote only option. Okay, those pushed our numbers higher than we thought they were going to be. As part of a blanket of special pandemic policy, if you will, the school committee did enact a policy where the superintendent can, if needed, assign students to another school. And I'm going to make this very clear right now. Our limits in our hybrid model are based on the best safety protocols for our students and our staff. That is priority number one. Okay, I am not shoving 20 some odd kids into a classroom when we need to social distance and wear masks. So that is a limiting factor. So if for some reason we have a massive move in another direction, we might have to, it is not the first choice. It is not what we're looking to do. And that was voted on in August at a public meeting. So I'm not quite sure if someone missed something, they weren't paying attention or what have you, but there has been nothing that has been hidden or lied or what have you with that. Okay, so the next one, please share your ideas on what we're doing to make this year special and memorable for our graduating seniors. What efforts, activities, virtual or in school, are being taken into place and bring them together as a group. Take the edge off the pressure of the virtual college search and graduation planning that after graduation planning that occupies their work. They're missing out on an entire year and their ultimate experience after 12 years in Norwood schools. We are aware of that right now. What the high school is really focusing on is getting our activities and clubs and the connectedness up and running. That's really important to try to mimic those and bring back those experiences. A lot of them we will be doing remotely. Some of the processes and procedures we're still working out. We're trying to finalize marching band and make sure that, again, student safety, making sure that we are not putting anyone in any sort of predicament where they're going to have exposed more than possible. As far as senior activities, we are still moving with them. There is still the post-prom committee. There's still the student council. They're still talking about those. Right now, we don't know exactly what they will look like, but that's going to be an ongoing process as we go forward. And if you are, as a parent, interested in, they are still looking for parent volunteers for post-prom. And I would encourage you to reach out to the high school PTO to do that. But we're actually looking with the activities and events and other things and athletics to make sure that all students are trying to get as connected as possible. And that mental health piece is important. The next one, if there are no snow days, why does the school calendar published 10/7 lists 6/18 as the last day with 6/25 as a last day with additional 5 days as needed? When would the last day for high school seniors be? We may not know COVID-19 wise about what kind of graduation will be allowed. What potentially will that be? That's usually included in the school calendar, isn't it? Okay, so we have a general idea about date of commencement for out-of-town family, etc. Okay, so we did update the calendar today and did include the tentative date for graduation, which is June 6th. It's always that first Sunday in June. Sometimes it's the 1st, sometimes the 5th, sometimes it's the 6th. And last day for seniors is usually the week before that, or 2 weeks. Well, they have finals if they qualify for finals for that. But all that will be coming out a little bit later. We usually don't publish or have not published those dates until after the holiday season. So we are doing a little early. We hope that we're somewhat closer back to normal and we can do some things that we haven't been able to do. Class day is June 4th. That's the Friday night, the Friday before. and graduation right now is scheduled for the 6th. We did run that on schedule last year, mainly because we do, as you know, Norwood has a healthy number of people who go into the military, and we don't want those that are going to go and serve our country not be able to graduate because they're going through basic training or what have you. As far as snow day goes, we do have permission to go all remote if there is a snow day. And the plan is to do that so that we would technically end on the 18th. There is a caveat that came out, and that's if there is a loss of power or a loss of connectivity, we cannot do that. So those 5 days are still sitting in there in case that happens. With the incredible work that Norwood Light does, I'm not anticipating that being a problem, but we are kind of required to still have that 185th day on there. But we are hoping, fingers crossed, that the 18th will be the last day, and we'll kind of have a nice long summer break. The homework question is the same one. We've been teaching the students the importance of social distancing. Can we also reach out to teachers and staff, reminding them the importance of not making unnecessary physical contact with students? That has already been done. We took care of that yesterday afternoon, just after I read your question the first time. If it's still a problem, I would ask you to reach out to the principal of that school. I will keep people, we'll remind people that, some teachers enjoy the physical closeness of their students, and one of the best things about being able to come back in the hybrid model is being able to see that in the interactions of the students and teachers together, and the joy that has brought both groups. But some have us die hard. So regarding kindergarten, is there a chance that we will be able to have kids go more than 2 days a week if COVID numbers are slow? Not slow. The issue here is space. Okay, and again, the 6-foot distancing, the wearing of masks, those sorts of things are paramount to ensure that we're not in a place where we could be spreading, if there is any sort of case of COVID-19. So basically, we are at that point, and we have older buildings, we have smaller buildings. The high school was built with a minimum amount of space. That's how the MSBA designs it and funds it. The Coakley has got interior classrooms that should not be used because of ventilation pieces, and then you've got overcrowded elementary schools. So we are kind of stuck in a spot where we really cannot expand much more than where we are now, and we would love to. If the social distancing, physical distancing requirement goes away, then we could bring people back more than what we are doing now. But until that happens, hopefully sooner rather than later, we're kind of stuck in this current model that we have, where we are moving between in-person to remote to in-person to remote. The engagement that we're seeing is much higher than it was last year when we were just doing remote, when we were just trying to move things forward without very many tools. But that is the limiting factor. Space is the limiting factor. It's not because people don't want kids back. It's making sure we're doing it safely. There's one about photo authorization. I've reached out to that school. I think they emailed that out. Are there discussions to send kids to school more than 2 half days, full days? Again, same thing. Space is the issue. Are students and drivers on school buses considered to be within close contact? They really should be. As a driver, I have to repeatedly remind students from kindergarten through school to keep their masks on, and you stay in their assigned seats. Worry about the safety of the kids, my family, myself driving the buses. So as of, knock on wood, as of now, we have not had a reason to contact trace a bus student. Doesn't mean we won't, but we would contact a bus student just like we would for being a close contact as defined by the CDC and our local Board of Health, is being within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. Okay, so that definitely could be a bus ride. And if you are a driver and there is a kid who is not wearing a mask, then you need to report it to the school administration so we can follow up with the student and follow up with the parents, because we need to solve that problem. Masks are required in the Norwood Public Schools. But we contact trace from kids. We find out where they had been, or a staff member for that matter, so we find out where they have been, and the health department, along with our nurses and administration, go back and investigate to determine who would be a close contact. Okay. And those people are notified that they need to quarantine. Okay. If you're not considered a close contact, you don't need to quarantine. You should be vigilant, but you don't need to quarantine. Would love it if the robocalls announcing cases could clarify if it's simply a positive test case or an illness, and include the disclaimer that most positive test results are false positives. There are many more fevers, illnesses, as always, this time of year. We need to distill the fear and educate. Please expand knowledge beyond the mainstream media. So just to be clear, where to start on this one? So just to be clear, if we have a positive case, and we use the PCR test, which is the gold standard of tests, it is the one that is the most reliable. There are other faster tests that are not reliable, and that's where you get the false positives, okay, for the most part. So we are asking families, if they have symptoms, to stay home and go for a test, okay? We are not doing, we're not tracking down every single cold or sniffle unless there's a positive case. When there's a positive case, we go back, we treat, and we investigate, and the Board of Health notifies those that are close contacts and need to quarantine. So when we built this hybrid model, okay, and we built it so we would have a cohort, a space, a cohort, a weekend, to try to keep groups separated as much as possible. We don't have kids moving around, so it's a cohort, and in the cohort you have a classroom. We're keeping them as separated as possible. They're not holistically separated. They still have to get on a school bus, but we're trying to minimize that mixing. Okay, it's not absolute. It's an attempt, but we designed this model specifically to enhance separation and distancing. Okay, so if someone has symptoms, either if we send them home or if they stay home, we ask them to get a test. They have to produce a negative test before they come back. Okay, if they don't present a negative test, if they are positive, we contact trace along with the Board of Health under their direction. They contact close contacts who need to quarantine. Okay, so that's how it works. The positivity rate that you see on TV is those that have had illness and have been tested and turned out to not be COVID. They had some other cold or what have you. Okay, we don't report. When you get a robocall, it's a positive case. We're telling you we have a positive case. We're telling you where it is, what school it's in, okay, and that either the contact tracing is in process, depending on the time of day, or whether it has been completed, okay? And we are now following that up where applicable, that we're just letting people know that the case was in their classroom or classrooms, just so they can be extra vigilant, okay? Those processes and procedures are on the school webpage. They're not a secret, okay? They are there for you to look at, okay? All the policies that have been approved by the school committee are on the school website. If you have a question, reach out. We will do our best to answer it, or at least get you to the right place in order to answer those. We are learning this as we go on. We are, again, that adage of building the plane as you fly it. We are figuring things out. The other question that was in here, I think I skipped over. Oh, will RLA have art classes? We're looking at that. And again, one of the things to figure out, we can give them art assignments, but is that an art class? And what does that look like? So some of the things, because of the medium, we are still figuring this out. The other thing I'll point out is that we only started school a little over a month ago. Okay, so this is all brand new. When we sat down together, the administrators back, in April and May, starting to look at designing school before the DESE came out with guidelines to throw us left and right to try to figure out, we were looking at other countries that had started opening in May and what they were doing, and approaching it from some of those vantage points to redesign the curriculum. We knew, based on the information that we got from last year and the research that had come out on the online learning last spring, that it was not engaging enough. It was not interactive enough. Children were feeling isolated, and we designed a methodology and an approach to deal with those. Is it absolutely perfect? No, I'll be quite honest with you, and there isn't an educator that you will talk to that will not tell you absolutely perfect would be going back to October of 2019 and walking through our buildings and seeing that excitement and that energy there, and that interaction between the teachers and the students as they came in. Does that mean that we're not going to learn a lot about how kids learn and how to do things this year? No. We are going to learn. We are going to improve. I cannot tell you enough how impressed I am with the professionalism and the dedication of the educators in the Norwood Public Schools. They have risen to the challenge. They are working very hard. Every teacher is trying to learn how to do what they have done, in some cases for 20 years, in a totally different medium, and try to interact with kids in a totally different way. They were not trained in teacher school how to teach, in a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting. All right. We are all learning that as we go along. And when I go around and I see what they're doing, I'm so impressed with how far they have come. And I know that they are going to continue to work to get better, but they are learning. We have, those first 10 days, we did a lot of training on the new tools that you see your kids using now. We did a lot of training with methodology. We did a lot of tweaking and bringing people up to speed on the curriculum. So it's not absolutely perfect. So it is, but again, without the support of this town and the leaders of this town, we could be, there are districts, and I would send people back to that Globe article that came out on Sunday. There are 6 and 7-year-olds who have 2 days worth of in-person instruction and 3 days worth of worksheets and things to do. We are doing 5 days of instruction. Wednesday is a little bit of a coach and work on your own in the afternoon, which is not a bad thing. Independent learning is not a bad thing. Okay. But we have many more days. We are trying to mimic a regular school day and move our kids forward in a regular path. And when you look around, there are a lot of communities that are struggling with that. So Jessica says, I'm not sure about the COVID case. I thought yesterday we got a call from the Coakley, and today there was one. Yes, 2 different cases, not related. We will let you know whenever there is a case. We don't want to, we want to be transparent with that. And it is a balance between being transparent and violating someone's privacy and causing a HIPAA violation. We can't say, it's a 6th grader in the blah, blah, blah school on the green team, wearing brown. I mean, there's certain things that needs to be a little general with that. But so we will continue to do that. If it is somebody that's in your class, you will get another notification from the principal that'll say, just so you know, the case was in your class. But chances are, and this is important, because of the distancing and the mask wearing, it's highly likely that even if your kid is in the same room, you're not a close contact. Okay, the masks stop the particles from flying out. The distance makes sure they don't travel. Okay, so okay, Kelly Cusick asks, why are teachers teaching in-person classes and remote learning at the same time? It seems like a distraction for the teachers to do both at the same time. So this, I think we're mainly talking about the high school, and basically we're still waiting for some tools. We're waiting for some cameras for the high school, but it will become more seamless. You won't notice much of a difference once those are in place. But ultimately, when we get to the high school level, there's a whole nother level of specialization in the instruction and in the content area, and it's very hard to replicate doing that without doing it in this way. I know other districts are not doing that. They have 2 days worth of instruction and 3 days worth of independent study. So from what I've seen, it's not absolutely perfect yet. We are still working out some kinks, but it is better. And basically what happens and what needs to happen is there is instruction, there is work, there is sharing, and even if the kids are doing work, the kids in the classroom should be doing work, similar work as well. Are my children that are doing hybrid learning switch to full remote learning? So it allowed to switch to full remote? Yes, they are allowed to switch. That you have to notify 2 weeks prior, minimally. We are opening the windows for secondary. It is opening tomorrow. It's basically a month-long window. If you are interested in moving, please let us know earlier rather than later. There is a cutoff date. And you're going to have to wait. And again, we very well might have to reshuffle the deck at the secondary level. If there's room to be in person in that classroom, that's fine. Actually, moving from hybrid to remote at the secondary level at the high school might not be that difficult, because English 1 class with Mr. Jones is English 1 class with Mr. Jones is just basically who's sitting in that classroom. At the middle school, they might have to change teams. Okay. So there are some switching that might need to happen in order to do that, depending on the level. Okay, so Kelly, I did guess correctly. So the question is, are we going to switch models as a district? So we're hoping that we're going to be in the hybrid model. The reason why we would move out of the hybrid model would be if there was some sort of outbreak in a school or something. We might have to move a school to remote. If the whole town is red, and it is what I like to call real red, where it's affecting kids and regular town people, not some outliner of a well, there's one town that has prison numbers that's been showing red. That probably isn't going to affect the schools in reality. So should they close? Probably not. But if it's a nursing home or something along that line, it might not be a hard red number. But if that's the case, we might have to close or go remote for a week or two, until those numbers come back down to yellow. And again, moving to full in person, the problem with that is the space to maintain the social distancing. I have to say the kids are doing a great job wearing the masks. They're doing a great job moving around the hallways. They're all one-way hallways. I hope everybody has seen the videos that are out there at this point in time. Each school has done one on the safety protocols we've put in. So even wiping down the desks and things like that, they're just doing a great job. And we're going to keep going. But those are the limitations. All right. There is a form. So, call the principal if you want to switch. There actually is a form, and I'm not sure if it's not up today on the main website, and it's on each school's website. It will be up definitely by tomorrow morning. But there is a form you need to fill out. And for now, because we're trying to get it up and running, and this is mainly the secondary piece, but you fill out the form, you sign it, you hand it into your student's home school. So if they went to the Balch and they're in the remote learning academy, you would either scan and send the form to the principal, or drop it off, or mail it in, or what have you. Okay. Um, okay. So let me see. Yeah, actually, Dr. Frazek makes the first, a good point. So, at the high school, there's certain classes that if we did not offer it in a blended, both in-person and hybrid format, we wouldn't be able to offer it. Especially those specialized classrooms. I mean, we only have actually, Norwood's pretty lucky in that they have 2 or 1.5 physics teachers. Most places struggle to have 1, so that would be an example of that. Okay, so Tracy, as a parent from Norwood and a teacher in the district, very fortunate for the experiences and options you've given our children. I don't think people realize the tremendous amount of time, energy, and planning and mental stamina. Yeah, I'm not sure I have much mental stamina left, but thank you. It takes for students, parents, and teachers. I'm teaching a district where teachers are expected to reach the hybrid kids in front of them at the same time as the remote kids at home. And and the high school kids they're much more independent. And then being able to navigate that, and even last spring, have done a great job. But when you get to younger kids who really need that guidance, we were not comfortable with that kind of model. Was not reporting cases associated with schools to the state. That is, Alyssa, that's not, we had that case today, and I was on the phone with the department registering our case in the school. So when we have a student or a staff member or a member of the school community that has a case, we have to call the department and let them know. And I've been doing that right along. We have not missed one at all. If we get a call about being a close contact and we are on our own as far as testing, or will be tested by the Board of Health, you need to go to your doctor to have that test done. If that is an issue, and this is a general comment, not necessarily for Maggie, but if that is an issue, I'm sure you could reach out to the Board of Health and they could facilitate someplace for you to get tested. The one thing with the test, and the thing that we are asking, is that it be the PCR test. We have had a couple instances where parents have gone and the doctor has just prescribed the rapid test, which is not always accurate, and that's where these false positives come in. So there you go. Provided, boy, I should make sure that Margot's hasn't answered the question before I try to answer the question. Thank you, Margot. She said the same thing I did. And Brian Riley put up the form to request a change from either the remote only option or the district model, which is hybrid, and hopefully will stay hybrid. And then there's more things on testing. So that PCR test, sometimes depending on your doctor, they'll offer both, which is fine. But we're looking for the PCR test, and make sure you get that one. It's kind of like, I'm sure people have gone for you go for a strep test, they do the rapid stress and the regular strep test, and when the rapid test doesn't take, but then you get a call a day later and it's you do it. We don't think you have it, and then you find out you do. Same sort of thing. All right. So with that being said, I don't see any more questions coming through. I do want to thank people for joining and partaking. We'll do this again in another few weeks. This is an ongoing challenge. We keep coming across things that we haven't thought of. And again, and I think I might have said this before, but normally in schools, when you're going to change something, you're changing one thing, not everything, but that's another topic. But you'll go through and you'll examine it for a period of time, usually up to a year. You will reach out to other school districts. How are you doing it? How are you doing it? Who did you like? Who did you use? And you share information, and then you try things out, and then you put it in place. That's not what happened here for any district. everybody was behind the gun, working solo, which is why we see such variation across the state. Different towns were in different financial positions. Norwood has a diverse tax base, was in good financial health, and was able to this year, even despite the shutdown, was still in a good place, and we were able to hire 24 new positions to offer a program that mimics what we had last fall. Teachers working with kids in classrooms. And there is a difference between the full remote. You might have 27 single classrooms, and there are tools and things that we'll be bringing on that will add more variety to how that works, to break it down a little bit more and make it a little bit more interactive. And those tools are still being rolled out. Google is developing more and more improvements as we go forward. And this is if your child is having difficulty, reach out to the teacher, reach out to the principal. Do not wait. We want to see our kids happy, mentally healthy, physically healthy, and doing well. And it truly is a gift to be able to come together as learning communities, and serve our students again. So with that, I will say goodnight and thank you for participating, and appreciate all of your support. Take care.